My name is Cassandra Reynolds, and for 35 years, I lived under the illusion that I was a good daughter. It was an identity I had built brick by painful brick, a fortress of achievements designed to win a war I hadn't realized was unwinnable. The final battle took place at Fleming's Steakhouse, in a private room that smelled of old money and roasted garlic. It was my mother's 65th birthday, and I had orchestrated the evening with the precision of a military campaign. When she finally stood, raising her crystal glass for a toast, a stubborn little flame of hope flickered in my chest. I expected gratitude. I craved validation. Instead, she looked directly at me, her eyes as cold and clear as the chardonnay in her glass, and said, "The best gift? You leaving my life." What she didn't know, what no one in that silent, horrified room could have possibly known, was how literally I would grant her wish to understand the weight of that moment. You have to understand the years that built it. My childhood was a gallery of my mother's quiet disappointments. My artwork was never quite neat enough, my grades never quite high enough, my posture never quite straight enough. While other mothers celebrated their children's imperfections, mine curated them, polishing each flaw with a cutting remark before holding it up to the light. "Stand up straight, Cassandra," she'd hiss in public, her fingers digging into my shoulders. "Smile more, but not like that. It makes your face look wide." My father was the counterbalance to her gravity. He was the warmth, the light, the voice that called me his bright girl. He saw the masterpiece beneath my messy crayon strokes. But when I was 12, that light went out. He collapsed from a heart attack in our backyard, and my world tilted on its axis. My mother's first words to me at the hospital weren't of comfort, but of blame. Why weren't you watching him more carefully? The question became the foundation of a guilt she would spend the next decades building upon. From that day on, my life became a frantic, one-sided negotiation for her love. I became the captain of the debate team, the editor of the school paper, summa cum laude, graduate from Northwestern with a double major in finance. I built a fortress of success, hoping she would one day be proud to live inside it. Instead, she stood outside, pointing out the cracks. My graduation, she had a migraine. My relationships, sabotaged with quiet, concerned phone calls to my boyfriends about my emotional issues, and yet I persisted. I became a senior financial advisor, bought a beautiful condo in Boston, and I paid for her life. After my father's pension dwindled, I was her sole source of support, her property taxes, her credit cards, her car insurance. I was the architect of her comfort, and in return, she was the architect of my pain. For her 65th birthday, I decided to make one last grand gesture. I restored my grandmother's sapphire bracelet, an heirloom left to me that my mother had always coveted. It cost a small fortune, a meticulous labor of love from one of Boston's top jewelers. This, I told myself, would be different. This would be the gift that finally unlocked the door. The evening at Fleming's was a portrait of perfection. White roses, her favorite Cabernet, her closest friends when she arrived. She offered me a cold cheek to kiss and immediately complained about the lighting. The gift presentation was a study in quiet humiliation. She opened the velvet box, stared at the brilliantly restored sapphires, and snapped it shut. "Your grandmother should have left this to me in the first place," she said, her voice flat. The warmth in the room instantly chilled. But the final, fatal blow came with the toast. After the cake, after the forced smiles for the photographer, she stood. Her friends quieted, expecting words of gratitude. "As I get older," she began, her gaze sweeping the room before landing on me, "I find myself valuing authenticity more and more." She raised her glass higher, her eyes locking onto mine. "If I were to wish for a gift this year, the best gift would be for certain people to just leave my life entirely. No more pretense, no more obligation, just freedom." Asterisk, the silence that followed her words was a physical thing. It pressed down on the table, suffocating the candlelight and chilling the air. Her friends, who had been laughing moments before, now stared down at their plates or exchanged tight, uncomfortable glances. Eleanor, her mother's oldest friend, looked at me with an expression of pure pity. The photographer, a young man I'd hired for his cheerful energy, sensed the shift. Instantly, he quietly packed his camera bag, gave me a brief, apologetic nod, and slipped out of the room like a ghost. For the rest of the evening, I was a ghost too. My body remained in the chair, performing the duties of a host signaling for the cake to be cut, ensuring glasses were filled, smiling weakly when someone tried to make small talk. But my mind was detached, floating somewhere near the ceiling, watching the scene unfold below as if it were a movie about someone else's life. My mother, having dropped her bomb, chatted and laughed with her friends as if she had just commented on the weather. She was radiant, free. She had spoken her truth, and the cost of that truth, my utter devastation, was a price she was clearly willing to pay. The drive home was a cocoon of tense silence. The city lights of Boston blurred past. The car window. I kept my eyes fixed on the road, my knuckles white on the steering wheel. When we pulled into her driveway, she gathered her things, including the velvet box containing the bracelet, which she had not opened again. Dinner was adequate, she said as she opened the car door. Next time, choose a better restaurant. Fleming's has gone downhill. The casual cruelty of it finally broke through my shock. Did you mean it? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. What you said? About wanting me out of your life? She paused, one foot on the curb and sighed the long, weary sigh of a martyr. Cassandra, don't be so dramatic. I was making a general statement about authenticity. It didn't feel general. Mom, it felt like you were aiming a spotlight right at me. She turned, her face illuminated by the porch light, and her expression hardened. If you choose to take everything so personally, that's your problem. But yes, if you must know, our relationship has always been a burden. I did my duty raising you. I am not obligated to pretend we have some special bond now that you're grown. I pay your bills. I said, the words tasting like ashen. My mouth. I maintain this house. I take you to every single doctor's appointment, and you never let me forget it. Do you? She snapped, her voice like a whip. You think your money buys you a permanent place in my life? That is, your father and you always keeping score. She slammed the car door shut, the sound echoing in the quiet suburban street, and walked into her house without looking back. I sat there for 20 minutes, maybe more, the engine humming quietly as tears I didn't know I was holding back streamed down my face. It wasn't just the humiliation of the cruelty of her words. It was the final, crushing realization of a truth I had spent 35 years trying to outrun. Nothing would ever be enough. No achievement, no gift, no sacrifice would ever make her love me. I had spent my life trying to fill a void that was not mine to fill. As the first hints of dawn began to streak the Boston sky, a strange calm settled over me. The grief was still there, a cold, heavy stone in my chest, but something new was crystallizing around it. Resolve. My mother wanted a gift. She wanted freedom from the obligation of our relationship, and I was going to give it to her. I didn't. Sleep. Instead, I sat at my kitchen table, the city still dark outside my condo window, and with a legal pad and a pen, I began to strategize. My career as a financial advisor had taught me precision, logic, and the art of disentangling complex systems. I would apply that same skill to my own life. By 6 a.m., I had a multi-point plan to disappear. First, I called my office and left a message for my boss, taking 2 weeks of emergency personal leave. I had months of unused vacation time, a hoard of days I'd never taken because I was always on call for my mother. Next, I called James Wilson, a top realtor I knew from my work. I need to sell my condo, I told him, my voice steady and clear, quickly and privately. Find a cash buyer. I'm willing to take a hit on the price for speed and discretion. He was concerned. Cassandra, is everything all right? Are you in some kind of trouble? No trouble, I said, a sense of profound clarity washing over me. I'm just making a few necessary changes. My next appointment was with my own financial advisor, a meticulous man named Gregory Peters. I walked into his downtown office not as a grieving daughter, but as a client with a clear objective. I laid out a stack of documents on his polished mahogany desk. I need to untangle my finances from my mother's, I stated, my voice devoid of emotion, every account, every automatic payment, every last connection. Gregory, ever the professional, simply nodded and began to review the papers. This is extensive. Cassandra, he noted, looking up at me over his glasses. You're currently paying her property taxes, all utilities, the minimums on 6 credit cards, car insurance, and all medical co-pays. Yes, I confirmed, and I want it all stopped immediately. May I ask why? This is quite sudden. It's time for us to live independently, I said, the simple sentence carrying the weight of a lifetime for 3 hours. We worked with the precision of surgeons. Excising my mother from my financial life, we froze the joint checking account I used for her expenses. We canceled every automatic bill payment. I had myself removed as an authorized user on her credit cards, and I changed the beneficiary on my life insurance and retirement accounts from her name to a charitable trust I'd long admired. What about the mortgage on her house? Gregory asked, pointing to a recurring payment. You've been making these payments for the last 5 years. Stop those two, I said, my voice firm. The house is in her name. The responsibility is hers. From there, my day was a checklist of disconnections. I went to the post office and forwarded all my mail to a new P.O. box. I called the home security company, the landscaping service, and the cable provider. Methodically removing my name and payment information from each account, I was thorough, leaving no loose ends, no forgotten subscriptions, no financial tethers that could pull me back into her orbit. Back in my condo, I began to pack. I moved through the beautiful, sunlit rooms and realized how little of it felt like me. The expensive artwork I'd never liked, the formal dining set I'd never used, the designer clothes that felt like a costume all of it had been acquired to construct a version of myself my mother might approve of. I decided to leave it all behind. I packed only the essentials, clothes, documents, a few cherished photos of my father, and the books that felt like old friends. Everything else could be sold with the condo. I was not just leaving a city, I was shedding a skin. That evening, I sat down to write one final letter. It took 7 drafts to find the right words that were true but not cruel, final but not vengeful. Mom, you said the best gift I could give you was to leave your life. I am giving you that gift. By the time you read this, I will be gone. The financial support I have provided over the years has now ended. The house, the bills, and all related expenses are solely your responsibility. This is not done out of anger, but out of acceptance. You were right. Our relationship has been based on obligation. I am now releasing us both from that obligation. Do not try to find me. I do not wish to be found. Cassandra. I sealed the letter and drove to her house late that night. The lights were off. Under the quiet watch of the moon, I slit the envelope. Under her front door. I didn't pause. I didn't hesitate. I just walked back to my car and drove away without a single glance in the rearview mirror. That night, I checked into an anonymous hotel on the outskirts of the city, paying in cash. As I sat on the edge of the stiff, unfamiliar bed, the full weight of what I had done settled over me. There was grief, sharp and searing. There was a tremor of fear for the unknown future. But beneath it all, an emotion so profound it made me gasp aloud in the silent room. Relief. It was a physical sensation, as if a leaden weight I had carried on my back for 35 years had finally, blessedly, been lifted for the first time. I was responsible for no one's happiness but my own. The week that followed was a masterclass in methodical erasure. My condo sold in 3 days to a private cash buyer, just as I'd instructed James. I opened new bank accounts at a different institution, transferred my assets, and shredded my old debit cards. I deactivated my social media, got a new phone with a new number, and took only what could fit in my car. I pointed the car west and drove, with no destination in mind, just the singular focus of putting miles between the woman I was and the woman I hoped to become. Each mile marker was a victory, each state line crossed a liberation. As I was disappearing from my own life, my mother began to realize I had disappeared from hers. Her first voicemails to my disconnected number and then mails to my old address weren't concerned. They were irritated commands. Cassandra, the lawn service says you canceled their contract. Call me immediately. The electric company claims the automatic payment was stopped. Fix this today. My prescriptions need refilling. Where are you? She never mentioned my letter. In her reality, my role as her caretaker and financial manager was non-negotiable. A fact of life that a simple piece of paper couldn't alter. 10 days after I left, the first real crack appeared in her denial. My former assistant, Megan, sent a message to the new, private email address I had given only to her and my therapist. Your mother came to the office today. She wrote. She was very upset, demanding to know where you were. Security had to escort her out when she started yelling, "Is everything okay?" I thanked Megan but offered no explanation. The same day, Eleanor began calling my therapist's office, trying to get information. My therapist, Dr. Winters, held firm, citing confidentiality, but she relayed the messages to me during our first phone session since I'd left. Your mother appears to be escalating, Dr. Winters said carefully. Eleanor said she has been calling everyone you know, becoming increasingly frantic, to weeks in. My mother discovered the mortgage payment was overdue. This, according to Eleanor's increasingly desperate messages, sent her into a complete tailspin. She hadn't managed a bill in over 5 years and had no idea where to even begin. When her joint account was officially frozen by the bank 3 weeks after my disappearance, Reality began to set in with brutal force. She made quite a scene at the bank. Eleanor reported to my therapist. They told her the account was frozen and suggested she open one with her own funds. She said she had no funds. That you handled all of that. My mother, despite her own modest pension and social security, had never bothered to understand her finances. She lived in a comfortable bubble I had built for her, and it had just popped. The credit card companies came next, with over $40,000 in debt across 6 maxed-out cards. The late notices began to pile up like snowdrifts at her door. 5 weeks after I left, she missed her second mortgage payment. The bank's first formal warning arrived. This, combined with the collection calls, triggered her first health crisis. Eleanor found her collapsed in her kitchen, hyperventilating from a severe anxiety attack. At the hospital, her blood pressure was dangerously high. She kept asking for you. Eleanor's message said it was the first time I saw her actually worried about you, rather than what you could do for her. 6 weeks into my silent new life, my mother left the first voicemail that wasn't a demand. Her voice was different, smaller, older, stripped of its usual authority. Cassandra, I don't understand why you've done this. I need you to come home. There was a long pause, filled with shaky breath. I miss you? The last 2 words sounded forced, unpracticed, as if affection were a foreign language she was trying to speak for the first time. I listened to it once, then deleted it. 2 months after I left, my mother received the official foreclosure notice from the bank. The threat of losing her home of 40 years was the final blow that shattered her denial. Eleanor, a true friend despite my mother's difficult nature, helped her find a financial advisor who laid out the grim reality in stark, simple terms: sell the house, pay the debt, and find somewhere affordable to live, or face bankruptcy. Your mother finally broke down, Eleanor reported in a message to my therapist. She admitted everything. She said she knew she had driven you away. It was the first time in my life I have ever seen her take true responsibility for her actions. 3 months after I disappeared, a letter from my mother arrived, forwarded by Eleanor through Dr. Winters. I hesitated for a week before agreeing to read it. Her perfect, looping penmanship was shaky. The paper creased as if it had been crumpled and smoothed out many times. Cassandra, I have spent these months angry at you, but yesterday I found an old photo album. Looking at your face as a child, I saw something I never allowed myself to see before. How much you were hurting because of me. I was not a good mother. I was jealous of you and your father. I resented you for having a life I never did. This is not an excuse. I am not asking for anything. The house is being sold. I understand why you left. I would have left too. I am sorry. Mom. It was a letter stripped of all her usual tools. No demands, no guilt, no manipulation. It was just a simple, painful truth, while my mother was confronting her reality. I was building mine. I settled in Seattle. The gray skies and constant rain a perfect backdrop for my quiet healing. I found a modest apartment in Queen Anne and a job at a boutique financial firm that valued clients as people, not just portfolios. My new boss told me, you have a gift for making people feel heard, a compliment that resonated deeper than any bonus I'd ever received. My new therapist, Dr. Matthews, was instrumental. She validated my decision to leave, telling me estrangement is sometimes the healthiest choice. Not every relationship can or should be saved. Her words gave me the permission I needed to finally let go of my guilt. Slowly, I built a new life. I joined a hiking group. I made friends, and at a New Year's Eve party, I met Daniel, a high school English teacher with kind eyes and a quiet laugh. Our relationship was an education in normalcy. When we disagreed, we talked. When he told me he loved me, he gave me space for my fear, then welcomed me back without judgment. Love shouldn't be scary, he told me. It should feel like coming home. As the 1-year anniversary of my departure approached, I saw a photo Eleanor had sent. It was of my mother, standing beside a small watercolor she had painted in an art class at her new senior living facility. She looked older, softer, a tentative smile on her face. Looking at that photo, I knew it was time. I booked a flight back to Boston. We met by chance in a coffee shop near her new apartment. She didn't recognize me at first. I was different, new haircut, new clothes, a new calmness in my posture. It was only when the barista called my name that she turned, her eyes wide with shock. We sat at a small table, the strangers bound by a painful history. The conversation was stilted until she did something I'd never seen before. She cried. Not manipulative tears, but quiet, honest tears of regret. I'm sorry, she whispered. I treated you the way my mother treated me, cruel, critical, never satisfied. It's not an excuse, but it's the truth. I was jealous of you, of your father. I blamed you because I couldn't bear to blame myself. We didn't have a magical reconciliation that day. Instead, we had something better, honesty. We agreed to exchange emails, a small, careful step into a new, undefined relationship. 2 years have passed since that birthday dinner. My life in Seattle has flourished. Daniel and I are engaged, planning a small wedding for next spring. I was made partner on my firm last year, specializing in helping women find financial independence. My relationship with my mother has slowly, carefully evolved. We talk on the phone now. Last Christmas, she visited Seattle. Watching her admire a drawing by Daniel's niece without a single word of criticism, I realized she wasn't the same person anymore. And neither was I. The journal she gave me sits on my bookshelf, a testament to the painful work of self-reflection. We will never have a perfect relationship. The scars run deep, but we have an honest one. At her birthday dinner this year, a quiet affair at a local restaurant, she raised her glass to second chances, she said, looking at me, and to the daughter who was brave enough to leave so that both of us could find better versions of ourselves, asterisk.